Hi there. My name is Kululwa Muthwa and welcome to this segment of Property Market Moves. In today's session, I'm sitting with Dr. Zoliswa Tshetshe. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Kululwa?
I'm good. Thank you. It's good to see you.
So good to see you.
There was a phase where we were seeing each other a lot then nothing.
Culminating in the UAE and Singapore, and from there on, downward.
Oh man, that was an amazing journey.
Indeed.
So when we go to you, who is Dr. Zoliswa Tshetshe?
The name is Zoliswa Tshetshe, and I am doctor in terms of the PhD qualification. Yeah. But I always say that those things don't matter that much to me. What matters most is that I'm just a creation that has been placed into this world to render a purpose wherever I find myself. And I find myself more often in the workplace than anywhere else because of obviously the nature of being an adult and having to go and work. And that's just who I am. Simple person in a woman's body. Yeah. And I just love life.
All right. And you have an HR background.
Yes, I do. I started in the world of work actually as a presenter at SABC. And really? After that, it was just a 1-year freelance contract. Sure. Then I went into the space of customer services and I found myself in the HR space through industrial relations. Okay. So my postgraduate professor said, if you want to go into the world where you will make a lot of money in the workplace, go into what they called back then human relations, which is industrial relations. Yeah. So I then believed her. I studied that. I found myself at the CCMA. I'm a retired CCMA commissioner. Oh, wow. And I just got tired of saying that dismissal is fair or unfair. I wanted to get involved strategically into how can we prevent it from being unfair? Sure. And what are the activities or some kind of projects really that can be done by companies within the parameters of what labor law is all about, because I understand it. And that's how I got into the world of HR. And the rest is history.
Wow. And so in different spaces, you speak about broadcasting, you speak about CCMA, and now you're executive chair in a construction company, which I don't know if I think it is still male dominated.
Very much
a female at the helm. How did you find your way there?
Firstly, when I had a second semi-retirement from corporate. I wanted to do my own thing, which I did for a year after 2019. Then COVID came. Yeah. And I thought after COVID, I have not fought anyone in corporate. So I can go back and do what I want to do, which is to serve there. I didn't want to work for any company because by then I was quite aware of who I am and what I want to do in terms of serving in whatever space I find myself in. So what attracted me to this company as I went through LinkedIn looking for opportunities was their tagline, Kulanati, meaning grow with us. Okay. So I got so excited that I would be part of a team that develop others, because my personal vision is to revolutionize the world, to become a place where everyone lives a life they love. You don't live a life you love if you are just sitting in a cocoon and you are not developing into anything. So I was really attracted by their value. It is one of their core values. And I didn't even know at the time when I saw Kulanati what kind of a company or industry it was in. I only got to find out when I then read more about the details of what the company was all about. So I'm highly adaptable. I can place myself anywhere if my mind is on it. I told myself that I don't know much about construction, but I come from various industries and I've adapted quite well. I intend to do the same here as well. Yes, there was a shock here and there in terms of how things are done.
Yeah.
I was used to the corporate type of an environment, and construction is construction. And I don't believe that I'm a culture fit. I've never made a secret of the fact that I'm not a culture fit and I don't intend to be, but I'm a culture add. I add a new dimension. I believe the dimension that I'm adding is what is needed in the space of construction right now. I am looking forward to have more women coming into that space, but I believe that for you to survive there, for us to see this transformation happening, it is not anybody's cup of tea. It has to be a very special woman who's aware of who they are, who's not going to feel intimidated because there's a lot of people of the opposite sex on the other side.
I love, being a culture add, because I think we get so accustomed to getting people who look like us, who think like us, who act like us, but then we deny ourselves of, the diversity in thought, and actually to the benefit of our organizations when we allow people who look differently to us. So you're talking about then this special female or these special women who would be able to get into that space. What challenges were you met with in your career as a female, and I guess especially in executive management, or even at a high echelon level?
The softer voice, I will say, perhaps of a woman, does present some kind of a challenging. By that I mean, I would raise an idea, and it's not taken into account. And then somebody raises exactly the same thing, sometimes in exactly the same words, but in a deeper voice. And suddenly everyone around the room is like, yeah, I agree with that. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's the first thing. And the second one is there's always going to be a boys' club. There will be times where decisions are taken at an event, say in the bar. I have no business
when you get
going
to the meeting,
bar.
it's already a done deal.
When you go to the meeting, they are just filling the gaps, and you can tell that 80% of what is being spoken about here was in some impromptu meeting where you were not part of that. So when I say the caliber of a woman that would survive, it is someone who is not scared to bring everyone to say, we are here and we are, fill me in, I'm part of this team. We're supposed to start this conversation from scratch. I also think I have gotten to a point where I am not scared of finding myself in a space where they say, okay, there's the door, go out, because I believe that what they saw in me, somebody else is going to see as well. For a very long time, when if you remember why I said I did human relations, labor relations, it's because I wanted a job. And coming from a poor family, it was important for me that I'm always employed so that I can change the narrative about where I come from. And I would do almost anything. Thanks to my integrity, I didn't have to do everything, but I would do anything to get and keep the job. But now I've had questions asking myself about the relationship I have with myself as to who am I when I don't have to impress anyone? Who am I when I don't have to succumb to any performance review with anybody? Who am I when I'm not trying to mimic and conform to the rules of where I am? Everyone that is there because either they are engineers, they are accountants, they are quantity surveyors to play their role, and they are adding value. And if I don't do that and all I'm trying to do is to copy somebody else, then that means I haven't done my part. And it also means that I have robbed them of the opportunity to experience who I am and add value in that space. So I don't compromise about the value that I add. It wasn't easy in the beginning because they were were not used to this kind of radical way of doing things by myself. But I do it with love. I always say that I'm in the business of loving people. I do it with love. At the end of the day, we have created a culture where we can disagree in the boardroom, quite radically so, but we are not fighting. I'm not fighting Kululwa, but we are fighting to get closer to each other in terms of the ideas, and we are fighting the difference that is between us.
Sure.
And that is what has helped really in terms of getting the cohesiveness of the team, which is the success of our business to be where it is today.
I cannot help but replay in my mind, the scenario that the country is in right now. In some of the, conversations, like from the witnesses in the commission, we know which commission. And one of the things that consistently stand out is the difference between having that kind of resolve and succumbing to pressure, which exists, in different spaces, male or female. And that compromises the leadership capacity that we have, because if you are thinking about survival, because some decisions, some actions are career limiting, and now you're at a point where you're saying that if you found this value and you show me the door because, of my position, then someone else will find the value. I wonder what would it take to have more leaders like that in South Africa that actually will say no to being pressured and stand, to this is what I believe, and show up authentically in their jobs.
Yeah. Kululwa, there are some like that. It is really difficult to have many people in that space for two reasons, in my view. One, there's still a lot of dependency on these roles, and people succumb under pressure because they want to continue being in that space. And the second one is, for you to be successful at that, you should be in an environment that is fertile for the change, that transformation to take place. Perhaps I'm fortunate because I went in there and I pushed my way through, and that environment provided a fertile ground for me to be where I am. But at a country level, I honestly don't think we are there yet. There's a lot that has been done, but there is still a lot that needs to be done. Without mentioning names, in the space of the country, for example, the Protected Disclosures Act, the application and the execution of what the law says on paper is one thing, but the implications when it comes to people trying to apply that is something different altogether. So people get scared, and it affects us in the construction industry, in the built environment industry as well. For example, 3 days after my name was on our website saying I'm the executive chairman, I got calls. So from the 30% crew. So it is a difficult industry to be in, but I guess it's important that for any woman that is there, you always have a strategy as to how you're going to protect yourself in this space and also protect the company that you are in without appearing to be antagonizing what the situation is all about, because it can be quite personal.
Sure. What kind of a leader would you say you are? And perhaps, just speak to how that has evolved, through different positions and what influences got you there.
When I started getting into the world of work, I just wanted to be an autocratic leader. All I wanted was for people to listen to me and to do what I want without asking any questions. Because when I grew up, I used to ask questions, the why question to my grandmother. Why must I do things the same way that they've always been done? And she would say, "Unguno kondoni." In other words, you always say what will happen. And therefore, because we are somehow the product of where we grew up, I thought that when I am in that
questions,
absolutely.
So I don't want anyone asking me.
I'm gonna get myself there, and they are just going to do what I want them to do.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I realized that no, people are not going to support you if you are just being the autocratic, authoritarian type of a leader that you are. And then I shifted over to being an integrative leader, where I give everyone an opportunity. In fact, I would let them participate in the decision making, and then I would say, now let's sift through, out of all of these ideas and insights that you have brought in, what is fit for purpose, what is relevant, because I now have an eagle eyes view of what is happening. There are certain dimensions that they don't see, and I'm able to use that information and make a decision on the basis of where I'm at. I moved from there to a transformational leader, and that is where I don't just look at a transaction of how do I interact with you, but the idea now is to have an impact that transform you, and allowing myself to transform whenever I meet with whoever I am, because I believe that being the most senior person or even the most educated person in the room, it doesn't mean you know it all. I learn from everyone. I even learn from my 4-year-old grandson to this day.
Absolutely.
I think I'm a conscious leader now, or at least I'm working towards being a conscious leader. I lead from within. I never want to leave self, the being that I am at home. Because anything else bangaisusa na nini na. But the self, the core of who I am, I don't ever want to have that branch removed from this core of who I am. So I believe I'm working towards being a conscious leader.
Okay. Jeez. So when we look at, and you touched on it, the probably the type of woman that would make it in the space that you are in, and the space that you are in is in leading a big construction company, but also the leading part, right? We have that sector is still male dominated. What can private sector do more to integrate women, and perhaps outside then of being that special woman, how can we bring more women along to and build them up perhaps to become that woman that would be able to stand and make an impact in that space?
The challenge that I've experienced, because in the last almost 5 years now that I've been in the company, I've been looking to have women that are going to be with me here, because it can get quite lonely when you don't have your sisterhood in them. Challenge is we are a construction contractor. The other construction and companies in our environment, or just in the built environment, are easier to attract women because women come to offices. They are closer to their homes. Women are generally nurturers. They want to lead, to run their families, to lead their families by way of raising children and just being there for the whole family. Now, the nature of our business as a construction contractor is that we could employ a person from Joburg because there is a project in Joburg. There is no guarantee that at the end of that project, then we will be able to have another one in Joburg. It could be in the Northern Cape, it could be in Limpopo, it could be cross-border. And because of that, we have struggled to get women in the core. I'm talking about now the engineers, the commercial people. Well, commercial people, you can still have them in the office, but it is more the engineers that we are experiencing trouble getting. We have a few, but when it's time for them to start a family, then they leave. Now, you will find that in our space, over 80% of the employees that are office-based are women. Maybe about 90% actually are women, because we're trying to make up for the fact that we have very few that are out there in the sites where the core of the construction work happen, the projects happen. So to answer your question in terms of what can we do, the flexibility to give women reasonable accommodation is easier said than done in our environment. What we can do is, whenever we have an opportunity that is in the close proximity, we're always excited to look for women, because we know then it is easier to find them. But due to that, we employ many people on a limited duration contract basis. They just want to take this one, and if the next one is going to be in the Bundus, they are gone. We do have them, but we get them and then we lose them again. So that is the challenge. We can only really do as much as we can with those that are office-based, and they are not usually the core of what the construction is all about. And there we keep them. There we are able to attract them, and we're able to retain them, because the culture which is in the business that makes people want to jump out of bed in the morning and come to work is there. And you may ask, what is that culture about? I said, I'm in the business of loving people. All the way from the most junior employee in the company to the group CEO. When I say, how are you? I'm not asking about the fine kind of a response. I want to know, how is Kululwa? How are you? So everyone wants to feel important, especially in a space where you have these long working hours. You are at work from 7 until 5 p.m. almost every working day, and you carry staff with you. By staff, I mean, if you are struggling with anxiety, it's you and anxiety. You get into that car, you get into that office together, and you wish that the people that are around you could be kind and help you to alleviate this burden that you are carrying. So even this morning, before this meeting, we had for the whole head office, we had what we call UGR's theme for the week. UGR's unwritten ground rules. It is our cultural initiative. It is a perception of how we do things around here. So how do we then live the core values that we have? Because they can't just sit in the glossies on the walls, on the website, but what does it mean to each and everyone? And what people raised today was, sometimes I want my manager to know that if I'm not okay and I'm bringing 70%, and I give you 70%, I've given you 100% because that's what I am.
That's all I have on that day.
On that day, that's all. I've given you my best, basically. So those are the kind of little things, just creating an environment that is harmonious. So the people that are in it, that makes them want to stay. But we're still open to any suggestions as to what we can do to attract more women. I'm talking now specifically to the construction contractor environment. Back in the day, we were able to get more when we did building. Because buildings would be anywhere. We would do Joshua, for example, in the likes of Johannesburg. We would be in the townships, in the spaces where people live, in their residential areas. We're not in that business anymore. We do large diameter pipelines. It is in the Bundus. So we will work in the mining spaces, pushing bulk earthworks. We do the large storage tanks, your fuel tanks. So we move people around from one place to another like that.
As you're speaking to that, I mean, I imagine then there's quite a bit of investment, both from a time and financial perspective towards, that people focus. How do you balance, as a leader, the consistent, focus on the bottom line and the social aspect of the business?
We always say that if you focus on the top line, the bottom line is likely to resolve itself. And the top line in terms of our model, which is we call it MDOS for Marie and Dickson Operating System, is an entrepreneurial operating system. It is what we call the passion, the cause, or the purpose, which is to grow a great company with great people and great partnerships. So when we look at how do we grow a great company, great people, and great partnerships, and there are initiatives that have to go with that, we then say we've fulfilled that, and then money should follow us. In our space, we partner with the clients that we have, like the likes of the water boards, where we do large diameter pipelines. They would also be interested in the socio-economic development. Okay. So when we submit a tender, we put together the pricing, we include what we would like to do in that space in terms of what it is exactly in the people that would be going to do a needs analysis would be the client themselves. Then we make them pay for it so that we can get a little bit of help there, because if there is no project, we won't be able to pay. That is how we make money. And it's important
to them as well if they want the social.
It is important. Absolutely. They wouldn't have done that if it was not for us. So we're able to do those kinds of initiatives from a corporate. So every project that we have has got an element of socio-economic development. And from the corporate office, every time I say corporate, I sort of cringe, because our group CEO does not like us to be called corporate because of the different ways in which corporates, not being agile and being bureaucratic and the red tapes, and he wants us to rather be called a large entrepreneurial company. So, but the corporate, when I say corporate, I'm talking about outside of the projects now. At head office level, we have structured socio-economic development programs with some companies where we assist, particularly in the education space. We've been involved in other spaces in the past as well. But I'm about education because I believe if we are saying grow, then education comes in. If we're saying Kula Nati, which is really why I am here, then we have to bring education in. And it is not necessarily just to pay for someone to go to school. If a child is hungry, they are not going to be able to absorb the lessons that are coming from the educator. And I know that because I've been there. So we get involved in those kinds of spaces.
As an employer, do you find that what you get in terms of the talent pool when you're recruiting straight from university matches what you require in the workplace, or is there a gap?
There's definitely a gap. So there's value in graduate development programs and internships because the most important thing that we look at is the attitude of this recent graduate. Are they teachable? Do they have the growth mindset that is going to allow them to shift some of their perspective in terms of how we do things here, which may be different from what was in the textbook? So there's definitely that gap, but all is not lost, because with graduates that go through a development program, and we have run some of those programs within the business, we are able to see that we have, I don't want to say brainwashed the person in our own way, but we have taught them our own way. We've brought them up in this industry in our own way of doing things. And it becomes easier as they grow through the business for them to understand our unique way of doing things, because yes, we're in the same industry as everyone else who is in the construction contractor, but there are some unique ways that is our own IP, the M&D way of doing things.
And I mean, from the institutions, what could they do differently to, almost like prepare them? There'll always be a gap of sorts, but in the curricula or in the approach of delivery, in class, I don't know how agile institutions are, in terms of, adapting to present day, needs, or even fully understanding work requirements in putting together their curricula. But from your experience, what would you say outside of the unique way of our, doing things, but from that qualification, what more can they add to prep them a little better?
I like that question because with the investigation that I have been conducting from a people engineer, a non-civil engineer person, I want to believe that every institution updates its curriculum on an ongoing basis, especially because there's quite a rapid change that happens in the world as well as in the world of work today. So what is needed by the companies today should be sought by the institutions. The companies also need to make it known, but I think that the institutions also have a responsibility to actively seek that knowledge as to what should we do so as to prepare these people to be able to get into the world of work. I know that some companies would have a preference for some institutions over the others because they look at the curriculum. So there has to be some similarity, some sort of standardization of the curriculum in the country when people are studying the same qualification, because then that will be talking to what the world of work needs today. I can't quite comfortably say that that is happening at this stage. And I think that if it is not happening, or at least some institutions are not doing it, it's about time that they do that, because you are not just churning graduates out for the sake of it. You need to know that the impact is that you add value in their lives as well as in the industry and the country by helping them to be able to get into the world of work, and not just get into the world of work, but they need to be relevant. There has to be that foundation that is needed for them to remain relevant in that world of work. So the partnership between the tertiary institutions as well as the companies that operate in this space is very important. We have partnership with some institutions, but not all. And I think that that is an avenue that needs to be explored even further.
To the young girl who has a similar background to what you had, which, you defined as, I know you used the word, poor, but let's say from, struggle, limitation, and who probably does not imagine herself out of that situation, could even be a young boy for that matter. What would you say to them?
I love that you're saying it could even be a young boy, because I've been mentoring boys at some point in my life, because we give young girls an opportunity, for example, for the day at work, and some of the problems that we're experiencing is because we're being reactive. Young girls become victims to young boys, but I have been focusing on preventing that by mentoring boys. So to both boys and girls, every baby was born with their hand closed like this, the fist. And you will know that from a fingerprint point of view and maybe the palm, there's uniqueness there. There is no one else like you. There is something that you are bringing into this world. Find out what that is. And if I did it, why can't you? The world needs someone that is keen to find their space. I remember one of the Miss Universes, I don't want to call her name because we always say that is the Miss Universe, said, find your place and concretize yourself. And I live by that. I subscribe to that. What is it that is in your hand? And open that hand and serve. Because whatever it is that you came here for, we need it. Just find out where it is. I started at some point, yes, I started at SABC, but at some point I was a security officer afterwards, because that is where the world has placed me. I learned, I wanted to be the best everywhere that I was. I never looked down on anything, because I believe that every place I found myself has shaped the person that I am today. And therefore, to that young person out there, I can't even say never give up, because it's too early for you to give up. But I believe that whatever it is that you are holding on your hand, don't rob us. Give us the opportunity of knowing what you are bringing to the world. When they talk innovation, it doesn't come from the oldies like us. It's going to be coming from you. And give us that benefit.
I love that you are talking about breaking down your journey like that, because we live in a society that recognizes the arrival and not the journey. So when someone is on the mountaintop, we clap our hands and it seems like they woke up or they were born and literally just became that. But we overlook the journey that got them there. So it's like a ta-da situation, like I just woke up like this. But really, there's a lot of, security work, house cleaning work, or any other work that we may look down upon, and ultimately becoming an executive chair. Do you call it chairman? Or I know in this world we gender sensitive. Chairman or chairperson. There hasn't been chairwoman yet.
I am she who mends the chair at the head of the boardroom table.
Okay.
I am chairman. I'm very careful not to be called chairperson or chair lady, as some say in the boardroom. I've corrected them a number of times because I'm the only lady there. I don't want us to find ourselves what we call managers, womanagers. Or manageresses, the diminutive when it is a woman. The role is that of a chairman, and I'm feeling the role of a chairman. So I'm executive chairman.
Okay.
And I meant it. And I meant the chair. So you were talking about the tada or the journey. I was baked in the oven. There are people that find themselves in that space through a microwave because it was easier, and it is okay. I'm not saying that people should have all of these problems that or challenges that some of us have gone through for them to achieve what is called success, arguably so. But as for me, it was a slow cooked oven meal. And therefore, it is never too late for anyone, even if a person is not young in terms of the age. It's never too late, because I'm competing with the person that I was yesterday and not with the other person. For as long as there is still a burning passion inside of you to do something, go for it. Do not compare yourself with the people that have arrived. Let them rest. You will get there when you do. I always use the analogy of going to a tertiary institution. There are people there that are there for a certificate, 1-year certificate. Others are there for a diploma, 3 years. Others are there perhaps for a 4-year degree. Others will go over to masters, and the year will be longer. Therefore, compete with what you want. And not with the other person. You don't know what their passion is, what their purpose is, what their mission is all about. You know yours, and yours will go according to how you define it.
What legacy would you like to leave? And I don't even want to say when you leave this earth, probably even where you are.
I would like everyone that I have come across to experience that I was once there. I want someone to say there is at least one thing that they learned from me. I wish someone could say she made me smile. Sometimes people will not remember what you said to them, but they will remember how you made them feel. So when I work on myself in the morning, before I leave the house to go to the office or anywhere, I put that smile on, because for some people that I'm going to go past, it may be the only smile for the day. And I always say the word professional must have come out of someone's pocket by mistake and landed on earth, because it compromises authenticity. I would like people to remember me as having been the authentic self that saw greatness in them and made them recognize them, that I see you.
At an event I attended last night, someone said authenticity is, what was the word? But essentially that authenticity is not easy. It requires courage. Do you have a routine, a way of being that you follow on a daily to tap into, into that authenticity, into the you that you bring to work?
It begins the night before. Okay. Because I believe that while I'm asleep, there's work that's happening in my mind. My brain doesn't sleep. My mind doesn't sleep as well. So that's where it begins. I don't just want to fall asleep. Yes, there are times where I'm extremely tired and I just hit the pillow and I'm gone. But I like, after my reading, I like doing some meditation. Quietness and allowing myself to just wind down before I fall asleep, because then whatever is the last thing I will have done will continue while I'm sleeping. And then in the morning, I don't compromise. I'm a spiritual being. Even at work, I'm called babes workplace spirituality. I bring it with me wherever I go. So I will start my day before 4:50, because there is some radio station that I have come across that has this prayer that I enjoy tapping into at 4:50. And by 5 o'clock it's done. Then I start my day. So it's the combination of that and coffee. And after that, then the day has begun. If I haven't had that prayer before 5 o'clock and I haven't had my coffee, then the day hasn't begun. And even on a Saturday, if I decide that I'm going to sleep in a bit and I will wake up at 7, when I wake up, I call that 4:50, because it's a way of helping me to gel with my normal routine, because time is just time. I can decide that right now is 23:04.
In your space, and I mean, with the type of work that you do as a contractor, M&D, does construction mafia and these extortion activities keep you up at night?
Yes. Like I said earlier, that I had my name there for 3 days. And the calls came. So yes, it does happen. However, I'm protected because the other members of the leadership team will handle those. So in order to deal with that, we have our stakeholder management, not necessarily employed by the company, but more like consultants that would help us to deal with those kinds of situations. But it does happen. We've had situations where we've even gone to the BE Commission, and because some people, I don't know whether it's ignorance or it's deliberate, but people believe that you have to give me 30% of your invoices, of your revenue that you generate. I'm like, oh, but how? But we we do a lot of education in that context, because in some far-flung areas, people believe that is how it's supposed to be for as long as there is what is deemed as local procurement in the tender. And in other regards, if there is criminality in it, then the South African Police Service needs to get involved, because they deal with crime. But the other side that has to do with the local development, then we look at what capabilities are there from a technicality, a functionality point of view, based on the needs that the business have. And we are committed to using the locals, because they when we are, for example, at the end of the month, when we are on the rest and recuperate period and we are not near the site, those are the people that look after our assets that are left there. So if we look after them, they look after us as well. But there are different layers. It is like an onion. There are different layers to the whole thing. But the long and the short of it is there, and we are not immune to that. We find ways of dealing with it.
Any technology that excites you about the future, of your space?
We have, and a few years ago, we introduced the VDC department, Virtual Design and Construction department in our space, which also changes the way that the interns that we bring in, the new graduates that we bring into the company, see what civil engineering is all about. When they have to, we're not really involved in the design side of things. We are on the actual roll up your sleeves now and do the work. But when we show a client on the technology that we have, a digital twin of how this reservoir that we're going to build is going to look like. At this level, we will be this percentage of the program complete, and it will be so many weeks before the actual completion. It helps us to claim as well. They just love that. It also excites especially our young people, because in this day and age, anything that's done on a computer is more interesting for them than just the traditional construction side of things. So it brings us closer to the design side of things, which is the fancy offices where a number of engineers would like to be in. So I believe that is going to be exciting for the engineers to come, or at least in the near future, because if you're a visual person and you are just looking at the program, it is not as exciting as when you are seeing the picture, you are seeing the movie of how the whole thing is going to pan out. And I must say, I always observe when we do due diligence and finalization meetings with the clients, when we get to the part where we show them the videos of how their project is going to roll out, I would see the smile unfolding, like, oh, so, okay, now we can see what this is going to work. So I believe that is going to be a game changer for us. I think at some point, maybe in a distant future, though, in South Africa, robotics will come in. But if you look at the local development needs and the number of people that are not highly skilled, that need to be able to get work as general labor and that kind of semi-skilled work, it would be an issue from a protest action if we take that away from them. So it's not something that we are looking at immediately, but we'll always open our eyes and ears in terms of what's happening in the world out there, so that when it comes to the country, we are not caught unawares, but we are part of the research and innovation in that regard.
All right. So as we wrap up, I have a question that we got from the guest that we hosted previously. Well, it's actually two. One, what one thing would you change about the industry if you could?
It would be the turnaround time when it comes to delivering on the promises. I'll make an example. We have been told that South Africa is going to be a construction site.
Oh my goodness.
I want to see the cranes. I want to see those changes happening. I want to see dust. I want to smell diesel because of the plant that is moving up and down the tracks and all of that, because that also helps our economy. When we have all of this infrastructure, people get employment, the world invests in South Africa, and we all spiral upwards in terms of where our country is. And of course, my company also get an opportunity to provide infrastructure, because people are going to need water. We need large diameter pipelines. Yes, there are water reservoirs that need to be provided. There are roads that need to be built, and that is where I come in. But outside of my immediate environment, I just think that there is a lot of potential in the country. I think that we have a great master plan. We spoke about this when we went to the UAE and Singapore, you and I together. However, implementation, if we can just deliver on our practice or on our promises and practice what we preach, I think that we would be an even better country than the good country that we are.
A side one, I'm into that because obviously beyond agility, there's then that the corruption component, which sometimes slows down, because before then you get the letter, someone will give you a call and say, I'm sitting with the letter. To release the letter, you need to do something or promise something, and at different stages, of the work, there is that. Any thoughts on what the country could do, or is corruption our way of being?
I'm laughing because I attended a strat planning session somewhere, and for someone that knows me, I love joking. And we were talking about corruption as a threat in that business and in that industry that we were delving into. So I said, as a general rule, when you're doing strat plan, when you're looking at a threat, you need to turn it around into an opportunity. So if we're saying corruption is a threat, maybe then bribery is an opportunity. And that makes the problem in the country even more. I don't think we would have bribery if there was no corruption, because then the bribe is not going to be received. It's not going to be accepted. Instead, you will be reported and you will go to jail. So a lot of work really needs to be done on the initiator, which is the corruption aspect to it. I think that the pride in our country by the powers that be, or people that are seized with certain responsibilities, could be better. Because when you are proud about something, you want the best for it. And in my view, corruption just means I don't care about this for as long as I can get a personal benefit. I even it could be corruption, it could be mismanagement, but for me, it's the same thing, because the bottom line is the same. It means that resources don't go to where they are intended. It's a lack of pride. For example, when I go to the Americas, the US specifically, because Canada and South America are the Americas as well, you'll see a flag of the United States of America in every house sometimes, but in every building you will see that. And for me, it reminds me that there is some pride about the country that these people are coming from, and maybe it starts there for us as well. You may recall in 2010 when the world came to South Africa for the Soccer World Cup, everyone had that, and it brought us closer together, and we would do anything to come closer to each other, because we were proud of the nation that we are. And that is really just an analogy. I'm not trying to make any country better than the other, because they are not, they are different. But we really need to relook into the pride that we have for our country, because then it will help us to look differently at what we allow and what we protect.
Yes. And that reminds me, of a gentleman in our trip, like at Singapore, and where you actually see that everyone has ownership. To a point that, if you throw anything on the ground, it's something for them. This person, when they spoke about their country, they would say, my country. Imagine, right?
I remember.
If we all were like, my South Africa. Oh my goodness. I wonder what kind of session would we need to actually get there? What kind of culture would we need to create and all rally around?
Okay. And it would be a sensitive one there. I guess you were asking and not expecting a response to that, but it is very close to my heart. It would be a sensitive one because we are a democratic country in South Africa since 1994, and we did very well when it comes to liberation, but we are at a stage now of economic liberation and not so much political liberation that we have been well on, being seized with the responsibility to take the country to the next level requires a different culture altogether. And if one looks at what may be deemed as successful countries around the world and the type of leadership that has been allowed to play itself out at the time when there was this transition, it is the opposite of where we are. And maybe to a certain extent, we may not need the extreme opposite of the autocratic type of leadership style, but we need to come closer to that, be somewhere in between, a decisive type of leadership style. And it goes back to the question that you asked earlier, where I said, if only we could deliver on our promises. If there could be consequence management. For example, you it just reminded me of when we were in that other country that's called the Fine City, because you get fined for throwing a chewing gum on the floor. And here you can get fined, but we know that many times there are ways of, with thirsty, cool drink and things like that. So the more regulations we have, the more we open an opportunity for somebody to get something to their own back pocket. So we really need a culture that is informed by pride, that we're doing this for the betterment of our country and not for our own, just for the benefit of ourselves.
Okay, so that last question was, how do you maintain balance? Personally, professionally, you're in a male-dominated space. You're the executive chairman. How do you maintain balance between personal Zoliswa and the executive chairman?
Zoliswa is the executive chairman. There is no balance. There's no balance, there's integration. I say there is work-life integration. I am in the business of loving people. I love men. Those men that I work with. And because sometimes I'm their sister, other times I'm their mother, other times I'm their queen, I express who I am in that space as if I am with the family at times. And then there would be times where I feel drained and I need to be away from that space. My own family, my own immediate family helped me with that. I'm a highly spiritual person. There is a little bit of religion, but I don't understand religion that much because it confuses me, especially now, 23, 24 September, 7, 8 October. So, but I consider myself a spiritual person. I pray, I worship the superpower that I believe is the creator of who I am. And that is where I get grounded. That is where I always say, even if it is this difficult, I don't know which direction to go. I was placed here for such a time as this, and for this very purpose. So that is where I gain my strength. And again, when I develop or help towards developing somebody else, I get that strength back. Yeah. When I talk to the men and women that I mentor, I feel mentored myself and I get more energetic. There was a time when I used to wake up and go jogging and running. I don't know what I'm running away from. I don't do that anymore. Perhaps I still need to get delivered because it's laziness, but I don't do that anymore because the group that I used to do it with, by the time they go out to do the jogging, I'm getting into the car, I have to go to the office. We start at 7:00. But the alternative is when I'm in the car, I'm actually... It's so weird because I appreciate the fact that I no longer live close to the office. So the time that I spend driving, even when I'm stuck in traffic, I'm grateful because just the other day on the 2nd of October, I think the first working day of October, I was looking at the grass beginning to get greener. I looked at some plants that are beginning to sprout and the leaves that are getting greener. And I'm saying this now is the beginning of something new that may have been planted some time ago and watered. And it for those people that have resolutions at the beginning of the year and you go through the year as if nothing is happening. Now this is the fullness of time. So I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I was just driving 7 minutes to get to the office like I used to. So it is a way of me getting into the space with the inner me so that when I go out there, the cup is full and I'm able to serve the others. I don't compromise. I serve from the overflow. But I start here. I start here.
Well, that was a very insightful conversation. And I do hope that the young lady or young gentleman out there, who is wondering, who is questioning, who does not recognize value in themselves, set through to the end of this conversation. So yes, if she can, why not
can't you?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kululwa.